Hello everyone, it's Animation 4. Welcome back to some more Omnifactory. Progress. We're going to start with some progress today. I have been working away making tungsten. It's a tedious process because everything just takes a really long time. You take the tung slate, you pulverize the tung slate down. I've just been pulverizing it again, but I could ore wash it and thermal centrifuge it, but that wouldn't give me any more tung slate. It would give me other things, and I don't need the other things. I need the tung slate. That then goes into the tier 4 electrolyzer, the molecular disintegrator, along with hydrogen, and 7 produces 1 tungsten dust. So each of these produces 4 ore. So we need 2 of these to produce 1. Well, more specifically, 7 of these produce 4. So you don't get a lot. But I've been processing it away. You throw it in here, and you vacuum freeze it. I got about 3 stacks of tungsten. So now what do we do with this? Well, the next step, as far as I can tell, is to get tungsten steel, which will give us tungsten steel coil blocks, and apparently ivy also, which is kind of good. Tungsten itself is hard to get, but tungsten steel is a 1 to 2. Steel is pretty much free at this point. I have 15,000 of it. So it kind of doubles your tungsten use. So if I grab a stack of steel, 60,000, a stack of steel, and a stack of tungsten, let that chill for like half an hour. We'll get 2 stacks of tungsten steel. And if you remember all the math I've done before, 2 stacks of ingots is enough to make a new set of coil blocks. Once we have the new set of coil blocks, which would be the tungsten steel, we can hit 4,500 Kelvin, which is really good and opens up a lot of things because we can then process signalum. If I use the dust, this takes 4,000. And lumium, which takes 4,500. Those are both doable at that point. And it wants us to make this, the flying stuff, but really, I don't think we need that. Trying to demonstrate and just failing. I don't think we need to worry about jetpacks anytime soon. Yeah, we've got an 8. See? Nice and fast. Alright, here is a little bit of a wild tangent we can try. We have made some multi-block structures. This is part of modular machinery, which is kind of like custom multi-block structures. And it uses the modularium. I'm going to make another one that's a little bit bigger. I was looking at the requirements of some of the quests later on, and we need something called a Cryogenic Air Distillator. And that is like a distillation tower for different things. Frozen air. So air can be sent into the vacuum freezer to turn it into liquid air. You can then send it into a cryogenic distillation tower to break it into its components. It outputs fluids into the first fluid hatch possible, so it could appear different every time. Something to keep in mind. All right, so Ender Fluid Network. Despite accepting EU, modular machines will not overclock. It's highly advised to feed the tower FE instead of EU, due to modular machines having issues when disconnected from EU cables. You get an $1. So we need a cryogenic air distillation tower. So if we look at cryogenic air distillation, it looks like this. It is a very big tower. It looks like it's 6 by 6 at the base and is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 tall. Yeah, and it takes a lot of stuff. So we have to consider where is that gonna go? Because I really have no idea. I've been doing everything in these buildings, but these buildings give you floor space of 14 by 14 and 3 tall. Even 2 floors, you get 9. So I need like 3 floors. That's like a whole building for this one thing. So I might have to think of some other way of doing stuff. No, I'll figure something out. But first, we're going to make the stuff, which is actually going to be pretty easy. It takes 52 frost-proof casings and 84 steel casings. So I already got 4. So I'll just say, hey, make 48 of these. I'll be like, sure. I already got 4 of these. I forget what the number was. 84. So make 80 of these. Easy. I bid you welcome to the new home for all things air processing. So this is pretty close to our main base. See it right over there. And it looks real nice. It's a big glass like atrium. The staircase, the second floor. Not quite tall enough with that floor there to get the cryogenic distillation tower in, but pretty darn close. A little bit of adjustment. I cleaned it up, made it look nice. I added a feral flame lantern somewhere under the floor here, and that makes invisible light sources everywhere, so it's nice and lit. I've been swapping out the mossy and cracked stone bricks for regular ones, so it looks a little bit cleaner. And this is just going to become the base of operations for the air distillation tower and everything that involves, because we also need like a freezer to freeze the air kind of thing, and then some place to store it. We actually do more processing on the air that comes out. You get noble gases that has to be sent into another tower. And I think we'll have a good amount of space here to do that. And it looks nice. We have like an outside view. I haven't been able to look outside in forever. Cramped up in these closed off buildings. I think this will be good. Unfortunately, we will have to move the fountain because this is exactly where I plan on putting the tower. So yeah, that stinks. This fountain looks nice, but oh well. I'd like to walk you through my thought process real quick. I was thinking of upgrading the energetic alloy conduits we have to vibrant alloy conduits. So it's like we're going to need a bunch of like energetic alloys and vibrant alloys to do that. So I should probably upgrade my process for making those, right? To make these, you have to make the energetic blend, which is some redstone and some glowstone into a mixer. And that actually takes a bit of waiting. So I'm like, I should get a high voltage mixer. All right. So I made a high voltage mixer, and it's like, oh, I got to add another cable. So I went and made another cable, plopped down the mixer, and it's like, all right, I got to put a chest here. There's already a chest here, so let me like connect to this one. What is this chest for? It's for a mixer. I already had one right here. Yeah, that was fun. This might be enough to upgrade our system to vibrant capacitors. to vibrant alloy conduits. Let's find out. Oh, this is much easier. Apparently you don't actually have to remove and replace. You can just right click on it and it will do the swapping. Oh, that's so much easier. You do have to hit the little square every time. Or at least the cable. So it's not super simple, but it's much easier than destroying and replacing, which is what I was doing up to this point. Well, there it is. I've used all 10 stacks of vibrant conduits, and I still need more. Another stack or so would probably do. This floor is done. This floor isn't. So we're real close. So it looks like final total was probably a bit over 10 stacks of conduits that were swapped out. I think everything's connected. If not, we'll find out soon when stuff just stops working. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I believe the conduits do have some internal storage, so likely... Jeez. 18k in and out, what? So likely it's going to be a bit of balancing as it kind of fills them, I think. These are really big numbers. I don't know where I'm producing 18k, 19k are from. Maybe it's like distributing the cables or something. I don't know. I think everything's up and running, but I did use all my conduits, and now I have none to get over to the new place. That was a good plan. Time to make more. All right, I got a convoluted plan. So here we have where the cryogenic distillation tower is. We got one tower right here. And if we look at it, the tower only has 2 recipes, right? We have liquid air becomes 4 things: nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and noble gases. And then the noble gases, which is 53 to 1, becomes 5 things. And these 5 things, I think, are the main thing we're going to be going for. Like, these are really hard to get anywhere else. Maybe helium's accessible somewhere else, but for the most part, these are all hard to get things. So it's going to be about getting this stuff. I really don't want to set up 2 cryogenic air distillation towers for this, because one of them needs to run 53 times to get 53 buckets of noble gases, and then the other one gets to run once. So the plan is to have one tower. The idea being, we have the one tower here, and then up here we have all of the vacuum freezers making the liquid air. That gets sent into the tower. It starts producing a surplus of noble gases into this tank here. Just kind of let it run, do its thing. It'll build up some noble gases. At some point when I'm like, I got a good amount of noble gases here, there'll be some sort of redstone control to cut off the liquid air coming in and send it to this tank instead. So this is like the liquid air buffer tank. It'll probably come through here anyway. I'll just stop pulling out of this tank and start pulling out of this tank instead. So it'll also have to manage like emptying this, but I'll figure that out. And it'll start pulling out of that, which will then produce the different liquids, which will be stored in these tanks. I'll probably play with the exact size of these tanks, considering I just remembered how non-balanced the output is. We get 35 buckets of argon, 1 bucket of xeon and krypton. So might not make these all the same size. But the amount shouldn't really matter yet. 35 buckets is a little more than 1 tank block. And these are 11 by 4, so 44 processes, and that'll start filling up. So I'm not too worried about it right now, but it's something to consider. And that's the plan. It's all going to be a few complicated fluid lines, some redstone, and I'm going to try to make it look kind of cool, like some kind of fancy chemistry lab, because like there's some cool colors in this. Like look at these gas colors. Hopefully they show this way in the tank. So let's see what we can do. And now it begins the process of making 7 vacuum freezers. $400 aluminum. So everything I've tried, I still have not found a way to rotate this. So hopefully it's a good orientation. That is perfectly fine. Ideally, I wanted the front this side, but that is actually just as good. Right there. Right there. All right. Here's where it's going. And get to start hooking stuff up. Ta-da! There it is. How does it look from outside? It looks all right. I think we got some cables running in here. Start filling the tanks. I think it'll look pretty cool. So here's the plan for how this is going to work. The goal is to just use this one tower to do both recipe processes without needing a bunch of work to change it, right? Because it has to process one of them 53 times before it processes the other. So I kind of just let it process one way. And then at some point I'll be like, okay, let's come look at how much we have and then switch the process for maybe a couple minutes and then switch it back kind of thing. So to do that, my goal is to have a single lever that just manages all that. And here's how it's got to work. So here we have the liquefied air tank. This is where the liquefied air comes in. We have the pipe here, which pulls out of the vacuum freezers up top. We're going to take this liquid and send it down the process line right here. And that goes up to the tank. Nice and visual so you can see it moving. Uses the clear ones instead of the ender ones. These have some internal storage to them, so that they do kind of hold liquid over time. The ender ones don't, as far as I can tell. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. So that'll be pulling out. And then what's going to happen, it's going to output, and the liquids are eventually going to end up, the noble gases are going to end up in this tank and slowly fill up this tank. At some point, I'm going to pull a lever, and a few things have to happen. I need to stop pulling out of this tank and start pulling out of this tank, which means, go back underneath. You don't need to be on top anymore. We need to have a pipe here that goes to the exact same place, right? Make sure I set this to just extract. Set this to just extract, because I don't want them going into the other's tank. But it's not that simple, because the air is processed in batches of 53. So if we're on a perfect multiple of 53, that's great. It does the process, and then it's empty. When in the likely chance that that doesn't happen, there's going to be leftover liquefied air in here, and we have to do something with that. So come into play the return line, which is this line down here. The return line is always trying to extract from this buffer here. I think you're able to extract from these. I have to confirm, but I'm pretty sure you are. If not, this whole thing's going to be harder, but we'll find out when we try. It's going to be constantly trying to extract. It's an ender line, so it doesn't have any internal storage. It's just going to be pulling and seeing where it can place things. Where it's going to try to place things are back in these tanks. So these tanks have another connection for the return line, which I got to make real quick. And this return line is essentially going to be inverse of what's being pulled. So when I flip the lever and it starts pulling from here, this input is going to enable. I had to figure out how to get that to work. But that's the theory. This input will turn on and it will allow things through. I'm not sure how. Like, now that I see it, it's like, how do you... There's only extract options. Yeah. We'll figure it out. So once the lever is pulled, it'll stop pulling out of here and start pulling out of here, which will allow it to drain the excess fluids into this tank, and it'll be nice and clear for these to come through. Once those are in that tank, they can't go into that tank because it's going to be filtered, so they'll just chill there and be processed. Once I flip it back, the opposite's going to happen. The noble gases in there will come down the return line, go into their tank, and the air will go back into that one, not being able to go down the return line because the return line is on the wrong tank. That's the plan. How it's going to work, I don't quite know, now that I realize that there's no redstone blocker on input. But we'll figure something out.